first 6 weeks on the album. And Mike's got a real good ear, you know, really. Yeah, he's got the ability to hear a lot of things. Mike's problem is that he's not had the engineers to work with him that he really needed, you know. So we went and got, an engineer. His name is Dwayne Barron, same guy that did the Quiet Riot album. And Dwayne's a really excellent engineer. So when I worked with Mike, and it was the kind of thing that what he largely was there for in the beginning is he helped change. If the songs were, let's say, 90% finished, Mike came in the last week and made a couple of changes here and there. And you'll hear little things, you know, that maybe the audience might not notice, but I noticed, and I think it made him better, you know. So I'm really happy, you know, that he came and he did that. And I think he's going to be a big star eventually, but it took about 4 months to do the album. So, like I said, he was with me for about the first 6 months, or first 6 weeks, and then the rest of it I did all myself after that.
We heard in France that Frank Zappa was supposed to one time produce the album. What about this?
Well, sometimes you get that in America, but not really, because the problem is that if you do one side of the album with one person and you do one of it doesn't have continuity, you know, it sounds like two different bands, and I really didn't want that. I tell you though, what I did do is I took the first half of the album, I took all the songs that I thought were really rock and roll oriented, and I put all those on the first half. And the second half of the album is more theater oriented. Like if you listen to the first half of the album, to me, it starts out with I Want to Be Somebody and ends up with School Days. It's got a very definite feel to me. It sounds like an American party record. Second half of the album starts out with Hellion and ends with The Torch Never Stops. And it sounds more European or theatrical sounding. So we knew that we couldn't make a double record set to begin with. You know, we couldn't make 2 records. So we split the record in half, trying to gear half of it for America, half of it for Europe. And I'm pleased with it.
You're pleased. How is the beginning of your European tour like? I mean, you played with Rothschild, so what do you think of them?
Well, when I was in Los Angeles about 3 months ago, I had Bruce Dickinson send me a tape. And I listened to them, and I liked their image because I'd seen photos of them. So I told Rod, my manager, I says, well, why don't we get these guys Ranch Island? He says, nah, I don't like them. And I says, I like them, you know. So I had Bruce send me this tape. And the tape sounded a lot like Sweet in their early days, you know. I said, well, these guys would be fine, you know. So I let Rod listen to the tape. So he says, okay. He says, let's try it. So we get to the gigs. And they've totally changed their style. They're playing like speed metal, you know, or punk. And I go, what the fuck is going on, you know? And like, I think they would have done better, because we're headlining, right? So the crowd's coming to see us. I think they would have done better if they would have played more material like they did on the tape that I heard, you know. They would have been better suited. But them aside, the tour itself, it's been about like what we thought it would be. I mean, the European audiences, well, the German audiences especially, were better than the English audiences, I think, because we heard that Europe was closer to America.
Europe?
As far as the kids, and the kids in Germany are very similar to the kids in America. Very, very similar. We didn't notice much difference. England, they're a little more reserved there, you know. It's like stiff upper lip, God Save the Queen, you know, and all that, you know. It's a little different, but this show was designed to get people excited, you know, and it does just that. So the audiences are pretty much the same wherever we go. But like I said, the first 3 German shows that we've done, so were just incredible. I mean, the audiences, like we've been playing them for about 3 months. We're getting a little tired, you know. And some nights you just don't really feel like going out and playing, you know. And we get out, and each night we were out in Germany, like into about the second song, they start pushing it because they're going crazy at that, and you feel it, you know, and it pushes you, you know. So it makes it a lot easier when they're really behind you.
Do you expect French public to be the kind of German?
I don't know. We hear things, you know, but we hear they're going to be real good.
And,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's like everybody thought when we started out that we were just an image band, and that's not true, because this band, believe it or not, when we first started, we never intended to play live. We were never going to play any live shows. We started out as a recording band, and the show just kind of happened. Because what we did is we were in a recording studio, we were doing demos, we were trying to get signed. And the demos turned out real good. So we said, well, why don't we take it out and play it live? So the first thing we needed to play live was a name. So I wanted a name that was controversial without really being controversial. So that's to say, if you know what the name means, fine. And if you don't know what it means, that's fine too. So, I mean, if you don't know what it means, it's a bug, right? So, okay, so we had a name that was really good, and the periods worked great. So then we said, well, what are we going to do? You know, we're going to go out and play live. And at the time, we were entertaining the idea of putting out an independent single, which we never did. We were thinking about it. And we thought, well, if we do that, what's the quickest way? Because we couldn't get radio to support us on an independent label. We thought, what's the quickest way to make people aware that we're out there? So we said, well, let's start doing this stuff on stage, you know. And there's also one other side to that, is that that's all true. But when you take 4 people that are very colorful, like that are in this band, you find that you start doing things just to entertain yourself. And that's what we did. You know, we were getting bored on stage. So we started experimenting. We were doing all these crazy things. We were doing things in Los Angeles we're not doing anymore that were really radical, you know. And what we're doing now is we've taken the best of all the experimentation and put it into one show. So, but I told you all that to make a point. Is that you can have the best show in the world, but if the music does not stand up, I mean, this band started out with music and will forever be music, and that's very important to me. I mean, the show is important too, but the show does not come first. The music comes first, because when you're driving down the street, you put a cassette into your cassette player, and it starts coming. We can't jump out of the speakers onto your dash and start doing the show. Those songs better stand up by themselves, because if they don't, you have problems. And that's the problem with a lot of bands that do shows and things like that. I don't think they put enough into the music. You know, the music is paramount of importance. I really do.
Could you describe me your 3 partners? I mean, your personality seems to overshadow the 3 other guys in the band, and the people want to know.
Well, I've got the biggest mouth. That's why. You know.
Could you speak about Chris, Randy?
Well, Chris Chris Holmes, his nickname is Chewy. And we call him Chewy because he looks like Chewbacca from Star Wars. You know, I mean, if he had hair on his face, he'd look, the Wookiee from Star Wars, So we call Chris Chewy. Chris grew up next door to Eddie Van Halen. Eddie taught Chris how to play. Yep. So there's a similarity there in styles. Out of all of us, I wouldn't say he's the most radical, but his childhood was, his mother was Hell's Angel, so how Hell's Angels are, right? His mother was Hell's Angel. So that'll give you a pretty good idea of where he came from. Randy Piper, I met Randy from my friend Ace, and Randy's from Texas originally, and then he moved to California. When he moved to California, I met him in about 1978. Kiss happened to be in town, and Ace had known Randy, and Ace introduced me to him. And Steve, we have a new drummer, Stephen Riley.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know.
Yes. And Steve is from Boston, and he used to be in a band on the Epic label called the Bees. And I laughed when he came out. I says, well, from the Bees to W.A.S.P, right?
Why did he left? Why did he left?
I shot him.
All right.
No, it was personality. I mean, it's like a marriage, like things aren't going good, and they're not going good, and you see the split coming long before it ever does, and you try to make it work, and sometimes it just doesn't happen. So that's what happened.
Okay. How do you see the LA heavy metal scene? I mean, Motley Crue has had a lot of success. Now Rat. Do you know them? Do you know these guys?
Oh yeah, everybody knows everybody out there.
Yeah. Are you surprised over by the success?
No. Because what happened in Los Angeles last year, another Liverpool happened in Los Angeles last year. That's no shit. There are 10 bands that have either already come out of LA or going to come out of LA that you maybe haven't heard of yet. W.A.S.P, Rat, Motley Crue, Quiet Riot, Dokken, Black and Blue, another band called Armored Saint.
Yeah, we know them.
And a couple of other bands. There's another band called Malice. They might make it. They're a little too close to Judas Priest, but if their songs are good, they'll make it. There are about 10 bands that came out of there last year, and like Kevin DeBro and myself, me, Kevin, and Frankie Bonelli, the drummer of Quiet Riot, had been in LA longer than everybody else, and the scene just kind of developed over a period of time, because in 77, 78, it was very hard for bands like us to get work, because we were doing the same thing then that we're doing now. But the punk new wave scene was so strong in Los Angeles, it was very hard to get work. So all these bands, like I met Nicky. Nicky's like my best friend. I met Nicky when he was 19. This is 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And I took Nicky in a recording studio for the first time, which was a disaster. That's a whole nother story. I mean, I was in there for 3 days, and I had to cancel the session. It was so bad. Well, anyway, it's like we were all doing this, but it was very hard to get work. And when the scene started loosening up around about 1981, it started loosening up, and it was easier. And what happened last year is there was so many bands that had just been laying and waiting for the time to be right, it just exploded after it. I think when you look back, you see like rock and roll encyclopedias, and you see like certain movements have their own chapter. I think 10 years from now, when everybody looks back, what happened in LA last year and this year is going to have its own chapter. It's going to be like San Francisco had their sound in 67, 68. The new wave scene for 2 years. I think we're going to have what happened last year. We'll have our own section. Because it's not just that there's a lot of bands coming out. It's got good songs. And that's the difference. There's good material coming out of there right now.
All right. And could you tell me about the period when you were with the New York Dolls? What does it mean for you?
Well, I was only in the band for about 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Yeah. It was very interesting. The Dolls were the only band I ever knew that could sit in an airplane terminal and miss 5 planes right in a row. Because they're out screwing around or getting drunk or something. Their attention to detail as far as discipline, very unusual, But it was a good learning experience in the sense that at least it taught me what not to do. So, you had a situation like, I was 20 years old at the time. And those guys, at that time, they were like 28, 29 years old. And it is 5 guys all trying to be Jim Morrison. So highly unusual at best.
Yes, what did you do before when you left the Dolls? What have you done?
Well, when the Dolls broke up, Arthur Kane, the bass player, and myself, we moved to California. And we were there. We started a band called Killer Kane. And that lasted for about a year. And Arthur couldn't handle it. He hated California. So he went back to New York. And I stayed in California. And I stayed there the whole time. So he's now living again in LA. But he's got real bad alcohol problems, and he can't keep it together.
And is there a major difference between the 70s and 80s a feeling spirit for rock and roll?
I don't think financially, yes. Musically, no. I think it's about the same. I tell you, what's going on in LA right now? Everybody thinks, well, Quiet Riot was the first band to get really huge after Van Halen. Because Van Halen started about 77. So they're not really part of this scene that's happening now. And Quiet Riot was the first band to really take off. But I tell you, who broke it wide open for everybody in America. It was not an American band. It was AC/DC. AC/DC. When they released Highway to Hell in America, the whole scene opened back up again. And the funny thing about it is that it wasn't an American band that started this whole scene. What happened is that these American bands were laying and waiting. And as soon as somebody opened the door and the labels once again could see, yes, there is a market there. That market had been there the whole time. That's how Van Halen survived the whole time. People just refused to believe that that market was there. And as soon as AC/DC broke it open, then the whole Los Angeles scene started going crazy again.
Yes. And I would like to ask you some questions about the song of the album. For example, BAD, what does it mean in your terminology, in your language?
What do you think it means?
I don't know. I'm just asking you this question.
The song, the whole album, the entire album was written about 2 things. Sex and frustration. And BAD is It's about sex. But what I'll let you do is I'll let you go back and I'll let you go back and listen to the words again. And I'll see you tonight after the show, right?
Yeah, tonight. All right.
And then you tell me what you think it means after that, and I'll tell you if you're right or not. To me, it's, as a matter of fact, coming from France, you ought to understand it better than anybody else. I mean, what that song's about originated from France.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. All right. And what about I Wanna Be Somebody? Is it autobiographic?
Well, it's like, it's frustration.
Frustration, yeah.
I mean, people struggling, to get somewhere.
So, all right. So.
Well, you're gonna be there tonight, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Will you play alone or with another band tonight?
I don't know.
You don't know.
In Germany, we play by ourselves every night. Which in America, you don't do that.
Yes. How long do you play?
1 hour.
And have you bring with you your stuff, theatrical show? Yeah. People and friends don't want to get in the front because they don't want to get hurt by meat. This kind of thing.
Yeah, but you know what? Is that the people up front, I never hit them with the meat. They're too easy.
Yeah.
It's too easy of a target. Everybody thinks I'm going to do that, so I never do that. It's the people in the back that got to look out. See, I had a chance when I was growing up. I had a chance to be a professional baseball player. Pitcher. I got a good shoulder.
Okay. So thank you.
Okay.
See you tonight.
All right. Take care.
I try to get the meaning of the words,
I'm sure if you think about it,
Yeah.
you'll get it. It's real easy.
Really easy. Thank you. See you tonight.
Okay, bye-bye.